Northumberland County and TechTout Technology Services would like to thank you for joining us today for Smart Northumberland's presentation on bias and fact-checking. Today, we will cover various topics that will allow you to ensure you understand how to identify bias, disinformation, and misinformation, as well as tips to handle this information. Question, check, and verify. Question what you're looking at. What type of article is it? Does this contain bias? Is the author biased? Might there be mis- or disinformation being presented? Check. Take the necessary actions needed to check the source and any information that is presented to be factual. Verify. Verify that this information presented is accurate. Bias versus misinformation versus disinformation. Know the story and be on the right side of it. Bias is prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. Disinformation is false information which is intended to mislead, especially propaganda issued by a government organization to a rival power or the media. Misinformation is false or inaccurate information, especially that which is deliberately intended to deceive. Are you biased? Everyone has bias, whether conscious of them or not. They are within us all. There are many underlying reasons. Reasons for bias include our personal experiences and upbringing, the experiences of others, like our parents and friends, the cultures we live in and what is considered normal, the information we process, or the media, our education system and what they value. To understand the truest view of the world, it is important to identify our bias and not let that bias affect how we identify what is factual and what is opinion. In the divisive world that we live in, it's sometimes easy to let our bias skew how we perceive the value of certain people, places, ideas, and things. Questions? Our bias is often reflected in the content that we share on social media, along with the content that is shared of those we are friends with, like, or follow. This in turn sometimes reflects the type of content that is delivered to us online. This is especially true in a lot of the news media that we take in. Cambridge Analytica infamously claimed to have over 5,000 data points on over 220 million Americans in 2015. They then created psychological profiles on each person to help them deliver content that spoke to many of the biases of each individual. This was done to help sway favor for the candidate they were working for. There are useful informational websites and tools out there to help you better understand bias in the media. This chart found at MediaBiasChart.com helps identify and list news media outlets and where they stand. Original, fact-based. Fact-based. Analysis-based with opinion-based some fair persuasion. Selective or unfair with persuasion pieces. Propaganda or untrue fabricated stories. This chart also describes what side of the aisle the news reports on, conservative or liberal. Miss the disinformation. So this was a video made for kids to help them realize that perhaps they should not believe everything they see on television. It looked great, realistic, and was made in such a way that someone without a lot of knowledge about species that are known to exist within the Canadian household may legitimately question if such an animal could actually exist here in Canada.
As night falls, 37 million Canadians turn out their lights and settle down for the night. But as we sleep, there's something interesting going on. House hippos have returned to Canadian homes, but they're extremely hard to spot. They enjoy admiring their reflections, hoarding socks, helping themselves to your devices, and annoying your pets. It looks like Canada has a house hippo problem.
Or do we? We brought back the house hippo to show how easy it is to be fooled in our digital world. Find out how to tell what's real and what's not at breakthefake.ca.
So, could adults be tricked by such a thing? Well, maybe if you lived on the other side of the world and you didn't know much about Canada, our environment, or the animals that live here. After all, I didn't realize that the bongo existed, and I've watched more nature shows than I can recollect, and actually dreamed of being a marine biologist when I was a child, but I had no idea that the African bongo existed. Nor did I realize that they've been known to eat burned wood after lightning storms. or that many African tribes refuse to eat them as they believe that if they eat or touch the bongo, they will have to suffer from spasms similar to epileptic seizures. But this is all true, noted by the SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment Corporations of SeaWorld and Busch Gardens fame. There are many undiscovered truths that you and I have yet to discover. Another great example I doubt many of you know of is a study I read recently about the correlation between those of us with canine teeth larger than our incisors. This study proves with 100% certainty that your genetic lineage can be traced back to a crossbred subspecies of Homo erectus and Hominine gorillinae, which happened 3.3 million years ago and affects 15% of people today and requires just a 1% genetic match in the MSX1 and MSX2 gene. Isn't that something? 1% of us have this lovely genetic nuance that makes us just a bit more gorilla than the other 99%. I can't wait to read more and research the topic. Earlier when I said I read this article recently, I meant it. In fact, I read it very thoroughly as well. I did this because it was my article, an article I made up by stringing a bunch of technical and scientific terms that don't actually even make sense in explaining this study. A completely fake study with no base in any reality I'm aware of. Did it sound believable? Questions? Disinformation is false information which is intended to mislead, especially propaganda issued by a government organization to a rival power or the media. Disinformation campaigns are murky blends of truth, lies, and sincere beliefs. What is the purpose of these types of campaigns? It's hard to know exactly at the time, but there tend to be general areas where these tend to be the most frequent. Political persuasion. Like when the super PAC supporting your or their party comes out with an obscure article, historical piece referring to some terrible thing that happened with the other party's leader that may only very loosely be based in fact. Promote or suppress policy change. Many things come to mind, but let's go with big oil versus climate change. Smear campaigns against someone or something. Misinformation articles have been written against electric cars and how they cause more pollution to produce than the outcome is worth. Non-confidence. One of the most common campaigns you'll see, questioning the aptitude or mental health of a political opponent. Inflaming or suppressing social change or conflict. This is something that is very relative today. There are a lot of movements and counter-movements out there that toss information about, oftentimes allowing supporters of their causes to come up with information that is false and misleading. We seem to have a lot of side-picking, a lot of divisiveness, and there are often so many headlines that the facts often get lost in the fray. They inflame or accentuate your bias to contort and manipulate the truth. To what degree they're able to do this is how they gauge how successful of a campaign they had. A chessboard full of pawns is no match against a single queen and king. Don't be a pawn. So, what can you do? Questions? Sometimes the chessboard is stacked against you. Other times you simply have to know how to play the different pieces effectively. Thankfully, governments, news agencies, individuals, and not-for-profits alike are teaming up to give you the tools to put the pieces together in a way that will help you fight these harmful ploys against your personal sensibilities. Snopes. Unsure of the validity of an article or a statement? Use fact-checking websites to prove what is being talked about. Snopes is generally thought to be the gold standard when it comes to this sort of thing. But Snopes.com isn't alone. New websites created by governments, news organizations, and individuals are popping up all the time to fight this evil infodemic. Whether you want to look up something political, scientific, or health-related, there's a site that handles that. Not satisfied? No problem. Maybe you need something that's a bit closer to home. Good stuff. Here are some great Canadian fact-checking websites for you to sink your teeth into. Getting on board? Okay, then try these games to challenge your skills. Games like Fake It to Make It or Reality River. There's a great game you can play from the factcheck.org site called Newsfeed Defenders, and there are so many more. Or to save time, try using these browser extensions to sift through the junk. A couple of great options are Media Bias/FactCheck extension, Official Media Bias Fact Check Icon, or SurfSafe. You can download these from Chrome. Questions? Okay, we've discovered some of the tools and resources out there, and this infodemic has gotten the attention of important news, government, and not-for-profit groups big and small. Now, you've come across a post or article that you think is questionable. How do you check? Okay, first, check the source. If it comes from a source that you deem reliable with minimal bias, then you're most likely good, because the New York Times is scrutinized much more heavily than, say, the New York Evening. So even if there is misinformation in one of the articles, you're much more likely to have someone report on it the next day. It's not from a known source. Cross-reference the information in a Google search to see who else is reporting. Still nothing credible? Then check out one of the many resources out there to check. I find factcheck.org and Snopes to be the best. All right, let's take a look at an article. This one's a Canadian news story, Canadian Geographic to be specific. Canadian Geographic made a report that over 500,000 sharks could be killed if a vaccine using shark squalene was selected. This is an odd story, as Canadian Geographic tends to be a reliable source. But might they have bias? That seems plausible. So let's first check their source, Shark Allies. Well, they certainly would have a bias. Okay, now to dig deeper. I've used Snopes to check this article. So we have the article in question. Now let's see if we can find it on Snopes.com. Let's search for the source on this one. Shark Allies. There's a result. It's the same article. Survey says, somewhat true, may contain some misleading information. Okay, so what was incorrect? Snopes reported Shark Allies did not claim 550,000 sharks would certainly be killed. The estimate had caveats, and many only come to fruition if researchers actually use shark squalene, which could either increase or decrease the number of sharks harvested to produce a COVID-19 vaccine. While known human population sizes can be used to estimate the number of sharks needed to manufacture a vaccine, it is not likely that every person within a population will need one. Furthermore, synthetic alternatives to squalene exist that may prove more beneficial to the production of a vaccine. Questions? Now, let's take a look at one of the best all-around sites for mis- or disinformation, factcheck.org. FactCheck does a great job of organizing their materials in a fluid and easy-to-follow, well-produced way. They have listings for current stories listed in their home section. They have well-thought-out categories, an easy-to-use search function. They also have a very well-laid-out topic section that allows you to find specific topics and article dates you might be looking for. Other great fact-checking sites include PolitiFact, which is a winner of a Pulitzer Prize. The aforementioned factcheck.org's companion site, FlactCheck. The site provides resources designed to help viewers recognize flaws in arguments in general and political ads in particular. OpenSecrets.org. Nonpartisan, independent, and nonprofit. The Center for Responsive Politics is the nation's premier research group tracking money in U.S. politics and its effect on elections and public policy. FactCheck, The Washington Post. This site accompanies a Sunday printed news column to check statements of political figures regarding issues of great importance, be they national, international, or local. Duke Reporters Lab, Fact-Checking. Provides a comprehensive list of over 300 fact-checking sites listed by region in North American and around the world. Last but not least, Canada's definitive online resource for all things digital media related, including a great section on breaking the fake, Media Smarts, the creators of the House Hippo video. We are not without our resources when it comes to the infodemic we face with mis- or disinformation and media bias issues. If you're looking for something more local, check out these great Canadian-based resources. FactScan Canada's political fact-checker, independent, transparent, nonpartisan. The Walrus Fact Checker. A registered charity, we publish independent, fact-based journalism in The Walrus. Canada Fact Check is an independent news platform dedicated to transparency, democratic reform, government accountability, and corporate responsibility. The aforementioned Canadian gold standard for scrutinizing all things digital, the Canada Centre for Digital and Media Literacy. Check out the Poynter Institute and the International Fact-Checking Network to see what you can do.
A growing number of fact-checking projects around the world are analyzing claims of public figures to determine whether they are true or false. Some of them also check whether that viral story you saw on social media is real. But who checks the fact-checkers? You do. Trustworthy fact-checking organizations are committed to telling their fact-checking audiences who they are, how they fund their organizations, and how they do their work. Based on these commitments, the International Fact-Checking Network has created a Code of Principles in 2016. The IFCN Code of Principles promotes a series of standards such as a commitment to nonpartisanship and fairness. That means checking all sides. A commitment to standards and transparency of sources. Fact-checkers must show their evidence. A commitment to the transparency of funding and organization. The public should know who runs the project and how it is supported. A commitment to standards and transparency of methodology. How the fact-checking is conducted should be clear. A commitment to an open and honest corrections policy, because no one is perfect, and fact-checkers should be more committed to correcting the record than anyone else. Through a network of journalism experts from around the world, the IFCN checks whether fact-checking organizations are compliant with specific criteria related to those commitments. Want to fact-check the fact-checkers? The assessments of all verified signatories are public. If you run a fact-checking organization that wants to become a verified signatory, go to our website. We want to help support an environment of truthful and reliable information. IFCN. Facts matter.
Want to get more involved or want to know more? Many people ask, who questions the questioners? The Poitner Institute has created the International Fact-Checking Network, where it checks those who check the facts. Questions? Dirt. Dismiss the information. D. Want to stop it? Don't unlock it. These stories aren't worth spreading around if one comes up in your social media feed. Hide it, ignore it, or report it. I. Illustrate the misinformation. Use the tools discussed previously to point out the misinformation. R. Report it. T. Triumph. Triumph by knowing that when sharing information on social media or anywhere, that you are someone who does not spread falsities without verifying the information first. Don't unlock it. Mis- and disinformation campaigns fail if they aren't paid attention to. So if you see what you think is one, just don't. Don't share, don't open, don't comment. This is a contentious subject area, I know. Calling out your friend or neighbor online may not be the best course of action. You may want to use this sparingly depending on the level of involvement you want to get into within the feed. If this is a local feed from a group within your community and you don't want to be in conflict, then you might want to move on to the reporting stage. If you feel it is necessary to point out the error, be kind and do so in a calm, fact-based way. You could reference a link to a Snopes article or one from any of the other sites previously mentioned that proves what is being said is false. Calling someone a clown or a moron will never end well. Give the poster the benefit of the doubt, and above all else, take the high road. Report it. You've checked the information posted. You know it's fake news. It shouldn't be shared. Report it. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook all allow you to do that. Here's how with Facebook. Click the 3 buttons on the top of the articles, then click Report. With Facebook, you'll have to search for the fake news to have the option appear. Check the checkbox, click Next, and you're done. Most sites you'll be using have 3 dots above the post. Twitter is no different. Simply look for the 3 dots normally above the post, click the 3 dots, click Report Tweet. How you report is up to you. The wording on Twitter isn't exact, so be somewhat careful with what you do here. The safe option is to report that you just don't like it. Claiming it's a fake account may get you flagged. Instagram is the same as Facebook, essentially. Follow the same methods listed above, and you'll be able to report it. Questions? The good, the bad, and the ugly. The good. The infodemic has been recognized. The players, their reasons, and their methods have been realized. We have good, honest organizations lining up around the world to combat this epidemic, and these organizations in partnership with the theater creators that have developed the tools necessary for us to identify, report, and fight against these campaigns of divisiveness. The bad. The enemy is strong, resourceful, and determined. They have few ramifications for their actions. They hide in plausible deniability, which makes them near impossible to stop. The ugly. They manipulate our bias to inflict conflict among ourselves. They use our ignorances against us to perpetrate false securities and insecurities about the realities we live in, and for now, it's working. The truth. Mis- and disinformation campaigns at worst are a threat to our democracy, our social decencies, and our way of life. At least, they reflect our ignorances and are something that should be snubbed out like we've done and continue to do to the many social injustices of our past. We need to do so to give us the strength of character needed to fight the more sophisticated threats that we will undoubtedly face in the future.